hockey friends and families around the world, and welcome back to another edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Our Kids Play Hockey. What happens, Christy, when you're the new kid playing hockey or the new family joining a hockey team? That is today's topic. It's the perfect time of year to talk about it. You out there, you are either someone who knows or you are a new kid entering to a new team. Again, we're not necessarily talking new to hockey here. We're talking you've switched clubs, you've switched teams, you moved, something happened where you are joining a different hockey club for this season. And today, Christy and I are going to discuss the tactics, the tips, the things you need to know when you enter into that new environment of how to make it peaceful, how to make it fun. Once again, Christy Casciano Burns, I'm Lee Elias. Mike Bonelli is on assignment in Norway this week. Lucky guy, right?
Yes, and he's going to come back with so many great hockey stories. We can't wait to share them with you. So it's just you and me, kid.
That's fine. I'll
Let's get
take it.
started.
I love these episodes.
Let's
Go ahead, Christy. Why don't you dive in?
let's start talking about just the feelings before we get into how to address those feelings. So think about it. It doesn't matter if it's a new team, a new school, a new town. There's anxiety, there's apprehension, lots and lots of nervousness for these kids. And all these questions pop in their minds. What if? What if they don't like me? What if I'm not good enough? What if the coach is mean? There's the kids' stomachs are probably in knots just thinking about all the things that they don't know.
Right.
There's that fear of the unknown. So you got to address it. You've seen it with kids who've come on board who are brand new. And I saw it with my own daughter. I'll set an example. She was at a private school, high school. Her high school did not have a girls' hockey team. They had a boys' team, but not a girls' team. The opportunity came knocking on her door to go play for a high school, public school. She didn't know a single kid on that team. No one in her school, her grade, girls played hockey. It was all foreign to them. So she decided to be brave and try out for the team. But before that, my goodness, wasn't she thinking about everything that could go wrong? And the thing that I said to her, I said, Sophia, yes, all of your concerns are legitimate. That's natural. That's normal. And this is something you're going to deal with for the rest of life. When you go away to college, you could be the only one on that campus from Syracuse, New York, no one else. When you start a new job, there's going to be all these people who you don't know anything about. And now you're about to try out for a team. You know nothing about these girls, but you do have something in common. What, Mom? What do you think? You have hockey in common. You're a girl who loves hockey. All of those girls on that team love hockey. That's something that, oh, my dog is so excited about it. That's something that no one else in your high school class does. So immediate buzz right there, right there.
Yeah, and I'll dive into Christy about the feelings. And again, anytime you mention Sophia, I know that the dog's going to jump up and start talking to us on the air. We're a dog-friendly show. I've always said this: we'll never turn a dog away on this show.
Sorry about that.
The feeling, I want to dive into the feelings too, because depending on the situation, the feelings can change. And this is an interesting topic for me because from the age of 12 to 19, I never played for the same team twice in a row.
Okay.
Which is very unique. I don't recommend this to people. This was just happened to be how my journey flowed. I started hockey a little bit late. A lot of this was just me kind of jumping levels. And I'm not bragging about that. I'm just saying I was on a different team from my second year of Pee Wee, my first year, till college. I never had the same team twice.
And how did you feel about that?
Well, again,
before you joined the team, there were those what if questions, right? What if, what if?
Yeah, and again, it depends on the scenario. So I remember the first time I went to a new team, I was wanted. I was asked to be there. I was almost recruited, if you will. So it was a nervous excitement of I don't know these kids, but they want me to be here. I feel very welcome, and I want to be part of this club. There were times I had to leave clubs because I didn't feel welcome, right? And then you go to a new place and you have this weird, it's a fresh beginning, but I have no idea what's going to happen. Is it going to be good enough? Am I going to be good enough? Are they going to teach me? Are they going to show me the game, right? A lot of different times, and as you get older, you start to learn how to deal with it a lot more. But a lot of different times, you got to really sit with your feelings and discuss them. Now, luckily, luckily, I have really great parents that sat down with me and really could see that sometimes I was struggling a bit, and they would help
Mhm.
me at least ask the right questions.
Yeah.
That was something that I learned, especially about coaching, is that, there's that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse
Sure.
drink. Right?
Right.
So a lot of times what I like to do is provide the person I'm mentoring or teaching with the right questions they should be asking, right? It's not
Mhm.
really on me to give them the answer, right? I think
Mhm.
this is a mistake a lot of people make. Well, hey, don't feel that way. You should feel this way. Well, that,
Mhm.
I mean, that's an easy thing to say. The question you should ask is, what are you feeling? Can you identify
Mhm.
it? Okay, why do you think you're feeling that way? Parents, you probably know the answer, right? You were a kid once
Mhm.
too. We always say, I was a kid once too. But you gotta let your kids explore that, because Christy, you made this really great point. What I learned in those, 5 years, 6 years is how to do it, right? So by the time I got
Mhm.
out of school, and I mean college, going to job
Mhm.
interviews, going to new
Yeah,
jobs, I mean,
exactly.
it was, I don't wanna
Mhm.
say it was easy, but man, I knew
Mhm.
what I had to do. I understood my feelings, I
Right.
understood the situation, and I think that gave me a massive competitive advantage in interviews because I had
Yeah.
done so many. I think
I've seen that with my own daughter too. And
yeah,
even going off to college, she knew how to acclimate so well because she had been in situations where and there was no one else on her college campus from
right.
Syracuse, New York. She was it. So it repeats in your life. So learning these early coping skills
Yeah.
will really benefit your kid throughout their lives.
Yeah, well, and I can tell you this too. My wife served honorably in the United States Air Force, and in that scenario, you have to move every
Yes,
3 years. You go into a
great point.
completely new place,
Mhm.
and sometimes a new country with
Mhm.
new people. And I remember I always had a pretty seamless transition. That wasn't as easy for her, but it goes back to what I was saying. I've had to do this my
Mhm.
my whole pretty much teen and adult life. So
Yeah.
we're going to discuss some of those things today that make that easy. I'm not going to lie to you. Anytime we moved, anytime we changed teams, anytime I changed schools, jobs, you're going to feel a little apprehension. You're going to feel a little
Sure.
anxiety. But I think once you realize, look, that's normal, right? And then you can
Yeah.
ask these questions. Hey, what do I bring to the table? What kind of person do
Yeah.
I want to be? Now,
Yeah.
let's, I'm going on a soapbox. Let's reel it back into hockey. That's my fault
Right.
because we want to go into some of these tips and tactics. I do want to give a shout out again to your book. The book this entire show is based off of. My Kids Play Hockey, available now wherever books are sold.
Yay.
But Christy, chapter, I think it was 52. 52, the new kid on the team is what gave us this
Mhm.
idea to talk about today. But I think that the first thing is, let's look at it from the kid and the family perspective. The first thing you should do is get yourself involved and communicate and talk and introduce yourself, right? If you just
Yes.
show up, it can be really hard. All right.
Mhm.
And to be fair, sometimes families show up and nobody talks to them. I'm going to talk about that a little
Right.
bit later in the episode.
Mhm.
Communicate, introduce yourself to the coaches. Hi, I'm
Mhm.
Mr. or Mrs. This is my son or daughter. Hopefully your kid is old enough to do that themselves as well.
Mhm.
And actually have a conversation, right? Um, Times not to do this 5 minutes before the first practice. All right, coach is thinking, this could be a phone call. This could be, can we get a cup of coffee? Have a 15, 20-minute conversation with the coach, with the coaches, and just explain who you are. And then when you get around the other families, introduce yourself. All right.
Great,
Hockey's
great
already
advice.
contentious enough,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Break those boundaries right away. You
Mhm.
agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Introduce yourself. Don't be that parent who stands off in the corner, and because people get impressions from that.
They
Oh,
do.
they're good. They're not good enough to be with the rest of us.
Right.
They're reading you. They're trying to read you, and if you're throwing off these vibes that you don't want to be part of the team, immediately you're going to get labeled.
Right.
Oh, they didn't even want to come sit with us. Oh, look at that. They're off on a corner. Introduce yourself, explain who you are, tell them who your kid is, share the number. Oh my, what's the jersey number,
Yeah.
right?
Which
That's how
one's
you know the
yours?
kid.
Which one's yours? Yeah.
Which one is yours? Mine's 15. Oh, okay. So then, because parents like to connect the kids with the parent
Yep.
and to kind of put it all together. You definitely have a conversation with a coach early on. Let them
Mhm.
know who you are, what your kid is all about. If there's any kind of special circumstances with your kid, open up that door of communication early so that they kind of know, hey, my daughter has certain issues with, I don't know. We had this one parent whose daughter had issues with her skin. It was very sensitive.
Mhm.
And so she had to wear kind of some special gear. So right away the parent let everybody know so that there weren't any kind of misconceptions about what was going on there. And I love that. I love when parents are really open with you and explain situations like, my kid's a diabetic, so that's why I have to pull him off the ice. And then, like, knowing that, we all carried, sugar snacks in
Right,
case,
right.
she ran out in her fridge, all that stuff. All those little things that kind of make either your family unique or special, let other parents in on that, because you really will bond closely and you will help each other and develop as a team. But the more you know about each other, the better it is. The other thing is, when the kid finally gets to walk in the locker room, make sure that they're carrying an aura of positivity about
Big
them,
time.
because
Yeah.
kids will gravitate toward that. If there's a chip on the shoulder, tell them, knock that chip off. You're
Yeah.
not better than the rest of the kids just because you came from a AAA team, and you're going to be with kids who may not be up to your level. Be helpful, be positive. Um, don't fall into the trap of that negative, gossipy, circles that can happen. And that's the same for parents too. And I think if you set that tone in the beginning, it's going to be so much better for you for the whole season.
And I'll say this too, make sure that you're very clear with your instructions. I'll give you a quick funny example. I told a new kid one time, "Hey, be a leader." Just kind of like, "Yeah, go be a leader in there." Which I meant by example, just work hard, be a leader. And
Yeah,
that kid
yeah.
took that as when going in there and saying, "God bless, it was my fault." He said, "I'm in charge. I'm the
Oh
leader."
no.
And I was like, "Oh no,
I
that's
bet
not what I meant at
that
all."
went over like a ton of bricks,
Yeah, that was
right?
my fault though, because I could have just said, "Hey, I just want you to lead by example." Right?
Yes.
I spoke
I'm
to
the
him.
captain.
Right. That's kind of how he took it, right? And again, like as an adult, I took that, I said
Oh,
it the way I would have taken it at
that's
my
so
age.
funny.
But again, he was younger, so I had to pull
Use
him
your
aside
words
again
carefully. Yeah.
and say, "Yeah, no, look, this is what I meant. That's my fault." I told him it's my fault. All right, be a leader on the ice. Nobody remembered it, and he was a leader on the ice after that. But
Mhm.
what you say and what you explore really matters. All
Yeah.
right, and again, look, especially when you're dealing with kids. Speaking of the kids a little bit here too, a little bit of horseplay, jabbing, talking back and forth, maybe middle making fun of. Sometimes that's how kids break bonds. I don't love it. It's not my
Right.
favorite thing, but
Yeah.
always remember this: when no one's talking to you, parents or
Right.
kids, that's a problem. All
Right.
right. When people are talking to
Yeah.
you, and I'm not talking about bullying my friends. I'm just talking about the normal talk in a locker room, right? That
Right.
can be a good thing too. Like again, we had a kid.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah.
chat, because I can remember my son walking into the locker room. He was, new on the team, and one of the kids said something like, "You're really gonna wear that
Right.
sweatshirt?" Because
That's
they
exactly what I'm
were
talking about. Yeah.
opposite. Yeah, a
Yeah.
little smack talk. You're really gonna wear that into this locker room? And Joey knew right away, I'm gonna bond with this kid.
Right. Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
internalize it to the point that you get inside your own head, right? If someone's
Right.
talking to you, that's a good thing. And same thing with parents, Christy. You said this earlier, but I want to say it. The parents are a team as well. The parents are
Yeah.
a team as well. And we've
Mhm.
all in youth hockey had good parenting teams and bad parenting teams, or split decision. I always like to say. Sometimes there's sane and insane. You know who you are. But the point I'm trying to make is that you got to have those conversations. You got to get to know each other. Another great example, my son has asthma. And again, I made that known. It was important. And,
Mhm.
there were situations during the season where he didn't have the inhaler or someone didn't have their inhaler. And we knew that, and we were able to
Yeah.
help that kid out. I mean, again, that's a little
Right.
more medical, but that's the,
Mhm.
that's the bond, right? You got to find those
Yes.
pathways.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's really important that everybody knows that, because, you know, uh, parents may get the wrong impression about the kid if he's having trouble breathing. Oh, what's wrong with that kid?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
oh, I get it. He
Right.
has
And who knows if,
asthma. That
if
makes sense.
the other kids might not even know what asthma is.
Right.
Right? So, I mean
Mhm.
I mean that. Sometimes, if you don't know it or no one tells you about it, you see a kid hyperventilating, you think, "What's going on?"
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So little things like that are important as well, but
Yeah.
I wanna go back to the positive attitude, and so this is
Yeah.
gonna kind of apply both to kids on the ice and parents in the stands. Don't overdo it. Don't
Hmm.
overdo it. If you're a new kid on the ice and you don't know the drills, you don't have to go first to prove a point. Let the team do the drills, watch them and learn. I'll tell you right now as a coach, Christy, that I don't want anybody messing up the drills. And I definitely don't want you messing up the drills because you're trying to make a good impression or trying to be overzealous with your impression. I'd rather you learn the
Right.
drills and execute them well. Right. And I also rather, if you don't know a drill or you've watched it and you don't get it, you should come up to me and say, I don't get this. Can you help me? And I might say, look, after practice, I'll show you for sure. But that's the type of stuff I'm looking for. Ease
Mhm.
yourself in to the team. If you don't understand something, ask. Another part of not being overzealous is if you're old enough that you're playing a system or a forecheck, uh,
Mhm.
ask if you don't get it.
Mhm.
Don't just go out there and try and do
Mhm.
what you think you need to do. Ask. I've said it before.
Mhm.
One of the greatest coaches I've ever had. He could see that in my, I think it was my third year of playing, that my skills were improving very fast, but I didn't have an understanding of the tactical side of the game yet because I was so green to the game. And he
Mhm.
pulled me. He showed up an hour before every practice and showed me stuff on a whiteboard. I am forever thankful for that man for doing that because he could
Yeah.
see I needed to learn and I wanted to learn. I've always attributed that's probably one of the reasons I became a coach is because of those sessions. But ask, don't be overzealous on the ice. Ease your way in. Parents, the same thing. You don't need to go in and volunteer for every little thing and burn yourself out and overdo it. People see that stuff. Just go in there and be
But
a good
you do
person.
need to step up and be a part of the team and
Absolutely.
volunteer.
Right.
Don't assume that everybody's gonna, because you're new on the team and there's a well-oiled machine and you don't want to step and ruin anything.
Right.
They need your help. They always do. So, don't overdo it, but definitely don't
Yeah.
set back that you're just letting everybody else do the work. Yeah.
With that said, I think getting involved in an appropriate way, like you're saying, is the
Yeah.
best thing you can do. I'm just saying, don't
Mhm.
volunteer for 75 positions. Just get involved, right? Just get involved and
Yeah.
see what you can do. Mm. So I'll tell a really cool story here about a young man that I coached that he moved from another state mid-season. This was a few years ago. He jumped on my son's team and he was a little bit taller than everybody else and a little bigger than everybody else. And you could tell he was nervous. He was somewhat newer to the game. Again, younger ages. I think we're talking 8U at this point. And he started to kind of bully the kids a little bit. So when anybody would make fun of him, he'd throw a punch. Really, this is where this was going, or he'd push him. He had the size to do that, and it was getting to the point where I noticed, as a coach and as a parent, it was starting to concern people. And the fact of that
Yeah.
kid's that you hear it, that kid's a bully. I want that kid to stop hitting my kid. None of those sentiments were correct. I'm sorry, incorrect, but they weren't providing any solutions. So I pulled the kid aside and just started talking to him, like, "Hey, how's it going? How's your new school? How's the new team?" Very shy, and I knew right then that all right,
Yeah.
this is how he is choosing to respond to the
Right.
anxiety he's feeling, to the nervousness that he's feeling.
Mhm.
And so all I did, and, along with his parents, was just talk to him and ease him in and have him have a good time. And I started putting him in situations where he had to be cooperative with his teammates, not versus his teammates all the time. And as they got to know him, you saw the bullying start to go down. We did have a
Mm.
conversation that that's not the appropriate way to get your teammates to like you. All right,
Mhm.
I don't want it to be left that we didn't say anything. We told him you have to stop doing that. You're becoming a disruption, and that's not okay.
Mhm.
But slowly but surely, he eased his way in. He became a good member of the team, and he's one of my son's best friends now, right? And
Yeah.
they don't even remember
Mhm.
that time period. But not only
Right.
is he one of my kids' best friends, but he's a real asset on the team that he's on,
Mhm.
right? But it was about the way we started the show, recognizing the behavior. He was
Mhm.
lashing out because he was nervous and he had no friends, he had moved, and he felt the need to prove himself, and that's how it
Mhm.
manifested itself. So
Gotcha.
as coaches, it's really our job to recognize that behavior. Now, if it didn't stop, I have to say this too, Christy. If it didn't stop and he continued to do that, we would have gone in a different direction
Sure.
with discipline and other things. I'm not going to allow a kid to bully anybody on my team, but
Right.
I didn't jump to conclusions. And his parents, who are wonderful, wonderful people, and I remember thinking, these are really wonderful people, and this kid's being kind of a jerk, and that
Mhm.
doesn't compute, right?
Right.
Usually, the kids that are jerks, their parents are of that of that
Mhm.
branch too. And I talked to them too, and it was a cooperative experience, and they were so appreciative of it. But I told them, I really think your kid's a great kid. I also understood, having switched teams so many times, I understood what he was feeling. Right. So
Yeah.
look, the broad point I'm making is this: it's a responsibility on all of us that if you have a new kid, to make sure that you help ease that kid in. kids are going to exude different forms of behavior
Mhm.
if they're in that situation. It might be bullying, it might be really quiet, it might be shy, it might be great. Some kids thrive in that environment,
Mhm.
but you got to recognize the behaviors. Just rounding this out again, from a coaching standpoint, a parent standpoint, even a kid standpoint.
Right. So we talked about when your kid is the new kid on the team. Let's also bring into the discussion what happens if a new kid is joining the
Right,
team
right,
and
important.
your kid's already bonded with a whole group and you're a tight knit group and out and outsiders coming in. And maybe
An
that kid was
outsider.
somebody who, right? The
Right,
outsider, maybe that kid was on a team that you played against and he
right.
was, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe he was the competition or he was the kid that you hated, and now you have to play with him or her. So, have a conversation with your kids too when you know a new kid is coming on the team. "Hey, look at this isn't easy for, Alex. This isn't easy for, Sophia." The new kids on the team, make them feel welcome. You need to do that. That's your job. You need to be a part of making that kid feel like they're also part of your team and belong there. So your kids also play an important role in being welcoming, as much as the parents need to do that too with new families that come on board as well.
yeah. I think you're hitting the nail on the head here. I was always taught, and God bless my parents for kind of instilling this in me, that when I got a new teammate, I was pretty quick to go up and introduce myself, even at a young age, and just say, "Hey, I'm Lee. Welcome to the team. Glad you're here." Sometimes, most of the time, they turned out to be a great teammate. Sometimes they didn't, but I wasn't going to not do that, right? And the
Right.
same thing with the family. I can tell you right now, especially if a family is from another place, maybe English isn't their first language. It's a
Right.
big deal to them when you go up to them and
Mm,
introduce yourself. All right, because parents can be very shy too. They don't want
mhm.
to mess up the waters or the ice in this case,
Right.
right?
Exactly.
So I'm telling you this right now to everybody listening. If you have a new family show up, it is a huge deal to them if you just go up and say, "Hey, I'm Lee, I'm Logan, or I'm Alina's dad." That's them right there on the ice. Which one's your kid? That little conversation breaks the ice. Pun
Breaks the ice, I
intended,
love that. Maybe
right?
that's what we'll call this episode, "Breaking the Ice."
Breaking the ice of being a new hockey kid or new family. But I just also think this goes beyond hockey. This is just the right thing to do, right? If
Yeah.
someone moves into your neighborhood, this is something I'm seeing
Mhm,
now. We don't see as much in society. You
mhm.
get someone moves into the house across the street,
Yeah.
obviously give them a minute, but go introduce yourself. That's your neighbor.
Right.
You're going to be living
Right.
with this person on your street. It's
Yeah.
no different in hockey.
And there are gonna be some parents who fear that the new kid is gonna take my kid's spot
Mhm.
on that line, right?
Yeah, yeah, it happens. I mean, it's a ridiculous fear, but it does go through your mind,
It
right? I
does
mean,
happen.
yeah,
And they can get nasty, and they can try and get you to join them in, being nasty to that family. It happens, you
yeah.
know?
And what I always tell families is, look, this is assuming there's not extreme politics on a team. That's
Mhm.
chosen on my teams by the performance on the ice. And even if I
Exactly.
have a kid, and this is my my
Mhm.
my coaching philosophy, not everybody shares this, but Mike says it too. If I pick a kid on my team, I pick them so they could play, right? And I think one of the things that I see a lot, Christy, just to snap on this point real quick, is there's a little too much focus on what line is my kid on, and not enough
Mhm.
focus on this is the team my kid is on. All right, because I can tell you right now that a third line center is
Mhm.
just as important as a first line center as
Mhm.
long as they understand their role, or a bottom defenseman, however you want to quantify it on a
Mhm.
team. Everyone needs to know they're part of the team and they have a role on that team. Everyone in youth hockey should play. There's no
Mhm.
scenario where a kid should not be on that ice playing 99% of the season. All right. But that's the note I always try and tell every family and every kid. Well, why isn't my kid on the top line? And I sometimes I'll ask, well, what does the top line mean to you? I'll ask
Yeah.
that to families, right? And what, yeah, because what they don't want to say is, well, it's the best players on the team, because it sounds weird when you say that, right? Your kid's on the team, they're part of the team, they understand their role on the
Yeah.
team. I also think too, parents can sometimes disconnect. I'm speaking from experience. They can disconnect from what the kid is actually feeling. I've had so
Mhm.
many parents, not so many. I've had parents come up to me and say, well, my kid's not having a good time. And I'm like, I don't get that impression. Have you
Yeah,
talked to your kid about that? I said,
yeah.
are you not having a good time? And I'll kind of massage my way into that conversation. Are you not enjoying yourself, and that you
Mhm,
think that that's the experience? And
mhm.
it's not always the case.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's like, well, I'm not happy about this. I'm like, all right, well, your kid is happy. We can
right.
talk about why you're not happy, but don't tell me
Yeah,
your kid's not happy when I see him smiling the whole practice.
exactly. Yeah.
So
No,
these are some of the
I
outcomes if you don't talk.
yeah, I have seen jealousy among parents
Oh
that
yeah,
really it eats them up. It they get so bitter and nasty, and they try to spew poison in the team because their kid got replaced because they weren't really performing where the coach thought they should. The coach thought they're better suited on the third line
right.
instead of the first line because here's this new kid came in and is really good. And this one mom,
Mm,
she could not handle it, couldn't handle it. And it just became, she just awful for her. She
right.
didn't enjoy the season. She's always, complaining and finding fault with the coaches, with the new player. It's just, it was eating her up. Um, so hopefully, if any parent is listening out there and that situation happens to you, do you really want that to be the case? A whole season just ruined because you can't get over the fact that your kid needs to work a little harder,
Yeah.
needs to play a little faster, work on their speed, instead of using it as a positive and saying, look at, you're not, and also poisoning the kid too
Yeah.
with that kid's there because, they know somebody. It's all politics. No, that kid is there because that kid's good,
Yeah.
you know? Just accept the fact that sometimes in competition, the better player gets the better job.
Well, I'll also say
It's
this,
just the way
Christy.
it works.
Um, I was able to, and I do this with the kids I coach too. When I saw a kid that was better than me, my brain would turn towards, not in a jealous way, but in a good way. Okay, I want to compete against that kid because I'll learn something.
There
Like
you
if
go.
I skate with him, if I
Mhm.
keep up with him, if I challenge him, I might lose 10
Yes.
times out of 10, but I'm going to learn something because it's the
Mhm.
only way you really grow in the game.
Right.
So if a new kid shows up for the rest of the team, if that kid is extremely talented, this is an opportunity for you. I'll equate it easier, right? Um, I've been on teams where the goalie is by far the best player on the team, by far. And that goalie has a choice to make. They can roll their eyes and say, I'm too good for this team, or they can look at the team. And I've had conversations with goalies about this and say, you're so good that our kids are going to become better shooters just by shooting on you at practice. But you
That's
have to give
awesome.
them your all, right?
Mhm.
And it's usually 9 times out of 10 turns into a really good experience for everyone. And look, if a
Mhm.
kid is honestly too good for that level, I hope that they excel. I just saw this last season. We had a peewee in our organization excelling, and he's going up to a higher level this year, and everyone's
Nice.
happy for him because it was done the
Right.
right way. Right, he's ready to move
Right.
up.
Yeah.
It wasn't too early, it wasn't too late. It was the right time for this kid to move up. But to your point, if a kid that comes in with more talent, that's an opportunity for everyone to learn, assuming that that kid has the right attitude. That comes down to
Right,
parenting and
right, right.
coaching as well.
Of course.
Um,
Yeah.
I hate it when I hear, well, my kid shouldn't be here. They should be there. Well, then you coach the team. If Mike was here, you
Right.
you coach the team and you understand the cohesion. Because I can tell you right now, parents, if you load up a top line in lines two and
Mhm.
three, and if you have a fourth line or not there, you're not going to win many hockey games. Or
Right.
or you are going to win a lot of hockey games, and a lot of your
Mhm.
kids are not going to be involved in those games, right?
Right.
It's a development situation.
Yeah.
Last story for me, again, using my own experience because it's kind of pertinent to this episode. I remember I switched the team one time, again, as I did every year. I was easily the fastest skater on this team. I was driven. They gave me an A on my jersey. I mean, they really
Nice.
built me up in a
Mhm.
really great way. And they put me on the third line as a center. And I remember at first going up to the coach of like, I don't
What a
understand.
blow, right?
Yeah, I didn't understand. I was like, wait a minute here. Like you're giving me all these, are you just is it lip service? And to this coach's credit, he sat me down, he said, look, and this is true. He says, you're having problems scoring. And he was right. I really at that time I could not score for the life of me. I could get the puck in the net. I had a lot of assists, but I had a hard time scoring at that time of my life. And he said, you will anchor the entire team on the third line because of your
Wow.
speed. He explained it to me. And it wasn't lip service. He said, this
Mhm.
is what I'm seeing. Your speed, you make that third line a threat. He goes, you can continue to pass. You'll be on the power play, But he's like, I need
Yeah.
you down there because it bolsters the whole lineup. And we won a championship with that team because of all
Wow.
this. He was
Great
right.
story.
But the
Yeah.
key was it was explained to me as the new kid.
Right.
You're a
Mhm.
leader. That's why you have an A. Your speed is a threat in this scenario, in this way. Your lack of
Mhm.
scoring is why you're not on the first line. But you will accomplish this on that
Mhm.
communication was essential. And here's the thing, I totally bought into it because of what he said,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that was the year I understood of, oh, I don't need to
Right.
be a top line center
Right.
to be an impact player on this team,
Mhm.
right? So again, if I'm not careful, we'll turn this into a different episode. Communication, right? It comes down
That
to
was
this.
good though. That's a
Yeah.
great that is exactly what I'm talking about.
Right, right.
And that coach communicating with you is so critical because kids are going to think they're being put on that I stink, I'm
Yeah,
not good enough. That
yeah.
all kinds of thoughts are going to go into, but when it's explained that way, how uplifting that is.
Oh, it
That
was so
energizes
well
you.
done. I mean,
Yeah.
he and I still to this day don't think he was giving me lip service. I mean, he made me believe in that role, and we won together. I'm going to tell you this right now. For the most part, when you win a championship, you don't care where you are.
Yeah.
I mean, look,
True.
if you're not playing incorrectly, you care. But
Yeah.
I'm saying when you win, you feel great
Yeah.
that you won, right?
Yeah.
You feel
Yeah.
great together. I mean, and
Yeah.
those teams typically win. That's the thing, right?
Yes.
You
Mhm.
can have all-star teams sometimes if they're at the wrong level. I'm
Mhm.
not talking about the outliers.
Right.
I'm talking about that.
Right.
But look, rounding this out, because again, a little bit of a shorter episode today. If you have a new kid, if a new kid comes into your team, or you're the family on a team where a new kid's coming in, it's all about family. Just make them feel welcome, make them understand. Lots of good communication. Get to learn each other. I always say this too. You don't always have to like another person, but you should respect them as long as that respect's being returned. There are outliers. There are people that show up. There are coaches that will absolutely sell their soul to the devil to bring in the greatest player of all time, play that kid over everybody else. Those situations do happen, but we're not really talking about those situations today. All right, that's a whole nother episode about politics. We're talking about the new family with a good kid, a good mom, good dad, whatever it is. Welcome them onto your team, right? And for those of you listening again, if you are in this situation, this week's ride to the rink is going to be all about if you're that kid. So if you have a kid that's going to be new to the team this year, make sure you listen to our Ride to the Rink episode, which comes out on Thursdays, where we're talking directly to your kid. But a lot of good information here. Make sure you go pick up My Kids Play Hockey. It is the sister companion to this entire show. We should write another one of these, Christy. I agree with that.
We're gonna do it. We're
We're
gonna do
gonna do
it.
it. All right, Christy.
And
Any
we'll
final
involve
thoughts?
our listeners too. You'll be a part of that book as well.
We should reference that. Any final thoughts before I close this out?
Um, yeah, because the season's coming up, a new season's gonna come up, brand new opportunities. So, if you were negative last time, you know, pivot, right? Change your attitude.
Love it.
Um, be welcoming. Be that positive force on the team. You get another shot at it. So it goes by fast, folks. Let me tell you. And you want to make each season the best season. Here's your opportunity.
And I'll tell you what, I'm so thankful for you, Christy, and Mike, because you've mentored me through my youth journey so far. And if there's anything I've heard people say, it's this goes fast.
Go
Enjoy it.
fast.
It's going to go fast, so enjoy it. And again, my final thought is this: every situation is an opportunity, good, bad, anything in between. Don't lose sight of the focus here, parents. This is your
Exactly.
kid's opportunity to learn and grow to be a better human being. Hockey is
Right.
a vehicle for their growth as a person, right? That is above all.
That's
Whether they
it.
make the league, the NHL, it doesn't
That's
matter.
it.
This is a
Yeah.
vehicle for their growth. So
Right.
make sure you're approaching every good situation, bad situation, middle situation as an opportunity to ask great questions, to make sure that they're critically thinking, to put them in environments where they are uncomfortable because they're going to be uncomfortable after school.
Yeah.
All right.
Hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
inevitable, right?
It happens.
Help your
Yeah.
kid
And
take
if
over the
you
world.
blew it last season, clean slate. You
Yeah.
get to get another shot at
Yeah.
it.
I always say any day I wake up vertical is a good day, right? So that's what most of you. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Again, if you have thoughts on this, or if you're a new kid or new family heading over and you want to discuss it a little further, feel free to email us, team@ourkidsplayhockey.com. And I always like to remind everybody, our Facebook group has grown tremendously. It's just called Our Kids Play Hockey. We have a Facebook page and a Facebook group, but the conversation continues on Facebook a lot of times. You can post on there, and really, it's us getting back to you, which is really cool. Can't thank all of you enough for being loyal listeners. You have made this such a successful program, and we really love coming here every week, even if Mike's in Norway. Christy and I love coming on here every week. That's going to do it, my friends. Have a great week. We'll see you next time on Our Kids Play Hockey. Skate on. We hope you enjoyed this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey. Make sure to like and subscribe right now if you found value wherever you're listening, whether it's a podcast network, a social media network, or our website, ourkidsplayhockey.com. Also, make sure to check out our children's book, When Hockey Stops, at whenhockeystops.com. It's a book that helps children deal with adversity in the game and in life. We're very proud of it. But thanks so much for listening to this edition of Our Kids Play Hockey, and we'll see you on the next episode.